Hello, this is Áine Divine here, 30 Days of Art with Áine, and this is day 12. Here I am. Hi, this is my bedroom, and they are my lilies, and I love drawing lilies. And today I wanted to, I've spoken quite a bit over the last week or so about drawing with an ink and a stick, and so I'm going to use a sharpened stick dipped in ink in order to draw these lilies. The paper is flat on the table because it's brighter for the video, but if you're doing it, I would recommend that you tilt the paper up like this. I put something underneath it and tilt it up a little so that there's less distortion when you're taking the image from there and putting it to the page. There's no chance that it'll go too long. But I think it's much nicer to see on film when it's brighter, so I'm just leaving it like this. And here we go. So this is a sharpened, it's a paintbrush that's been sharpened with a scalpel blade. And it's, probably the best sticks that I've used have been just twigs that I've found outdoors that I've sharpened myself with a blade. I wouldn't really recommend the bamboo. Well, for me, they haven't really worked. The bamboo pens just don't really work. So, for me, and I like the organic line that's made with a sharpened stick, so I'm just going to make a start. I think there's something about the shapes of the lilies that lend themselves well to this kind of drawing, because they have quite a kind of graceful linear feel, but also kind of a lost and found edge where the light falls on the beautiful petals. And I think it's really great when there's a bit of a shadow, like the stem there being darker. Lovely to have a thicker dark line to explain that. And also lovely to be surprised by, it's also lovely to be surprised by the mark that's made, and you will be surprised by the mark that's made, because now and again it'll come out really thick without you knowing in advance. But you gradually find your way with it too. I'm just fascinated by how the lilies are extending into the light here. It's important how you set up your flowers so that they're inspiring in terms of light. I think there's nothing more beautiful than the light falling on a petal. And yeah, so that's what I'm looking at here. I'm not wanting to do a continuous line here around the front edge of the petal, because the front edge of the flower, because this is where the light is falling, and I think it's more effectively described with a broken line. However, there's a kind of a bud just opening beyond this flower that is more in shadow, and I'm going to identify that with a more unbroken line. And I'm going to find the edge of this flower by painting the dark of the other flower up to meet it. Now this isn't neat Indian ink. I've watered it down about 3 parts water to 1 part ink. So it's still quite dark, but it's not got the same intensity as Indian ink straight from the jar would. Then there's 2 more little bits to that petal. Just kind of making my way around. It's quite nice to slow down and do kind of meditative drawing, but like this one, especially after the vigour of yesterday in the gardens at Kinsey. And there's this other leaf. Something quite nice about the fluid continuous line that's possible with lilies, or that's I think not just possible, but it kind of complements the lilies. I think the continuous arc. So if you can really capture, or just look at the kind of arc that's created in the shaping of the leaves, you'll capture the character of the flowers then. And I kind of like that it's okay to get a bit lost and just bring yourself back by finding something else. It's like a bundle of lilies. And in a way it's okay, I think, for it to be not precisely the position, you know, where everything is, but for you to just kind of continue to keep the faith as you go and know that in that calm place something beautiful can be produced without that being your intention or something. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I suppose if there is any intention in these drawings, for me it's to reach that quiet place. And well, I say that, but yesterday I wasn't quiet. I think it's just to reach that place of no thought. So like that quote I sent out in the email, you know, what was it again? Something about being rigorous in not thinking. Not following the pull of thoughts, but being present. And I think that's what keeps me coming back to all of this work, is that beautiful ease that arises through just placing one mark after another on the page in response to what I'm looking at. Okay. So these little orange, my God, my voice is going. These little orange stamen things are really characteristic of lilies, aren't they? So I think once we get those in, it'll make them more recognizable as lilies. And notice I'm just doing the shadow on part of them rather than outlining the full thing, and finding some of those little stems that reach up. This is where you'd be kind of half tempted to put in some collage or colour of some sort, which would be quite nice as well, but I think I am going to stick to black and white today. And there's no gripping like here, it's quite a light, light touch. Holding the stick lightly. And let's see, you can see that midnight is curled up there nice and quiet, and Margo's wanting to see what the action is, I think. It's hanging around me here. Okay, so you can see that flower is further away from the stem than it is in reality. So what am I going to do about that now? I think I maybe quite like that there's a close stem here, so I'm going to let that be where it is and just introduce the stem where it actually is here. This paper is the Bockingford paper that I use for watercolour painting, and just because I didn't have any other paper at home, and these sheets are quite big, and the bunch of lilies being quite big, I wanted to have something that would keep me feeling quite free, you know, drawing them. I don't want to be restricting myself too much. I don't know if you can see. Let me just hold it up a little bit now. There, so far. And there's Margo perching herself up there and me myself. I'm really sorry about all the coughing, honest to God. Don't know where that came from. Alright. Oh, you might notice too that I'm actually wearing a dress today. This is one of my favourite dresses. I feel really happy when I wear this dress. I'll show you. Here's that one. So I'm not in my grey jumper and grey cardigan. the house has heated up a little bit as well. So it feels fine temperature wise. There's a few mornings there and it was really cold. Something up with the boiler. Okay. And there's a kind of a feeling of spring in the air a little bit. Like yesterday there was crocuses coming through the grass in Kilkenzie House. And I think, you know, it's nice to kind of ourselves to feel the change too and make some changes to the wardrobe. Why not? It might be a good time to give a shout out to my friend from Norway, Rose, who puts flowers in her hair going to the supermarket and walks barefoot in the woods and things. She's like a little fairy. So I'm just really enjoying where the flowers are taking me. You know, I'm following some of them with great care, and I suppose each mark I'm making is observed keenly first. However, you'll find sometimes that as you move around the painting or as you move around the drawing, the flowers will end up in places where they're not in the setup, and so I would go easy on yourself when that happens and kind of trust that actually they're where they're supposed to be. And for this kind of exercise, I think it's lovely to just be spontaneous with it and just go with where they end up. But I would, as much as you can, be attentive to the shape of each one and the dark and light. Like there's a lovely division between light and dark in that bud there. And there's the dark of the stem coming down to meet the heart-shaped leaf. So I'm forgetting that it's a leaf really and just seeing in terms of shape. Otherwise it feels like you're having to do a job of foreshortening, when really it's just reading as a heart shape here, that leaf. And every so often become aware of your facial muscles, for example, and see whether you feel like your muscles are, like your jaw might be clenched and you might be holding your breath. Your shoulders might be rising up. I say all these things because I need to do a check-in myself all the time for these things when I'm drawing, because despite feeling quite relaxed and joyful about this subject, my shoulders were rising up there and my jaw was beginning to get tight. As I said before, it's a bit like giving birth, so there's something in softening into the process, softening into the creative act and just letting it, I don't know, for goodness sake. What I mean is actually allow your lips to be quite soft as well, you know, so that there's a feeling of yeah, relaxed, open. I don't know how long I've been doing this for. Well, 13 minutes. You may not. I mean, very rarely do I watch back the full video myself. So, you know, please feel no obligation to watch the whole video, because it's really just to get a flavour of the kind of inspiration that I feel and the joy of the process of observing and translating what we see. And go with your own rhythm. You might be wanting to do something a lot quicker. You could select another video if you wanted to. And if you wanted to do something more vigorous. I think the stick doesn't really allow for any rigidity here. You kind of need to let it play a part too. So you actually haven't got the capacity to fully control the mark. And it's a lovely thing. The other way of doing that, of course, would be to use your non-dominant hand, or to put some charcoal on the end of a bamboo stick. You can